Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. This is Mark De Simone. Today we will be speaking about cybersecurity within the industry. We are speaking as Wallix and the work we've been doing in addressing the challenges of this market. As you can see from the first icon, we're part of the Global Cybersecurity Alliance. Which is the organization that within the International Society of Automation that brings in together both people that come from the traditional production, OT, PLC, and so forth, and companies that come from more the IT area. And of course, these two DNAs of both the IT and the production are really core to having a successful implementation of cybersecurity within industry. Gartner Group has identified Wallix as taking some pretty bold steps ahead of everybody else to bring in what they call cyber physical systems, meaning bringing cybersecurity within the domain of the OT technologies. So let me start now on the next slide. So, of course, this is me, and what I do is, among other things, is really driving the practice of industry within Wallix. Wallix is a cybersecurity company, and we realized quite a long time ago that when you're speaking and dealing with operations technology, the manufacturing floor, or the infrastructures with physical systems, the challenges of bringing cybersecurity in that context are far greater. Just to give you a sense of what we do at Wallix, we have four major business areas. The privileged access management of, which is basically ensuring that privileges are managed for administrators and service accounts as they come into critical infrastructures and into your secrets. The area of Trust LM, which is about identity federation, which means to ensure that all of the identity systems that are existing in a company are federated through a single view for the user. Best Safe, which is a privilege elevation delegation management system, basically an endpoint system that ensures that there is real protection against malware and against using privileges in areas that you're not supposed to. And then the area we call Wolf for IoT is all of the manufacturing and Industry 4.0 area. This is what we are discussing today. Now, you see here a pretty traditional depiction of what an enterprise layer, the enterprise layers of both the enterprise levels and the manufacturing floor in a traditional production company. So clearly, in the area of IT, that means the area that has the enterprise resource planning system, the database, and so forth, the concept of privileged access management has been there for a long time, and that's, of course, where we also are. What we now started to do is to actually come into a different area, which is the production area, the manufacturing area, the plant. And in this, we're really looking at three specific solutions leveraging our technology. The first is remote maintenance. Now, you see there's an icon with a gentleman from a cloud looking inside the machine. It's clear that as you have maintenance people or technical people that need to get access to your PLCs, your CNCs, your SCADA systems, they need to be able to, the company needs to allow them to come in, but you as a company, as a manufacturer, need to ensure that you know exactly where they're going, what they're doing, what they're seeing, and specifically when they leave, that they don't bring with them the keys to your castle. So this is one area, and we'll go into a lot of description of that. The second is, and you can see the red box called where there is a Best Safe, is we take basically applications that are running on PCs, on Unix boxes that have been there for a long time, and typically manufacturing applications last for 20 years, so they're or 15 years, so they're executing one application or two, and really you don't want to have that become a vulnerability. So Best Safe basically locks that PC, locks the privileges to only the privileges of that application, and we will show how that works. And last but not least, the most complex area is the connectivity between the IT world and the OT world. And you see there's an icon gateway, and it's clear that gateways are put in front of PLCs or CNC or SCADA systems to be able to read and also write, but particularly read the data that is the rich data that is in machines. Now, to do that, you need to do lots of things. Use the ability to speak with different protocols, but more importantly, once you have a gateway, the gateway by definition has the access to the application, therefore has all of the passwords of the applications. Therefore, it is a very vulnerable place, and you can attack there. So these are the three areas of attack that we deal with. It's clear that in a manufacturing environment, you get things that are not traditional computers, right? So you've got sensors, PLCs, composite machines for fuselage in that case, power meters, and so forth. So these are not your traditional IT systems. And when you look at the factory floor or the floor that is, let's say, with complex different machines, you can see that there is a plethora of different brands and different proprietary protocols from different companies, many even from the same companies that are different, that are the legacy systems that are part of your floor, part of your production process, part of your operational processes. And the whole movement toward Industry 4.0 is the ability to not just to read and to be able to view all the rich data that is in those systems from the maintenance point of view, the production point of view, the energy usage point of view, the production, the need for people to be there. So all that data is corollary data that is useful in a number of other applications, not just the control applications. So again, here's the three solutions. We have a remote industrial maintenance and endpoint protection and protection of the manufacturing floor credentials. We'll start with the first, which is basically the access and session management. The Bastion product from Wallix is a traditional, strong access management and session management and password management system for administrators administering applications and systems and infrastructures, which are, let's say, could be vulnerable to theft and so other things. We have adapted this to the specific use of maintenance workers that need to get inside the application and systems inside the plant. Now, the architecture of the Bastion, this is the privileged access management system, is fairly straightforward, and I'll get the functional view in a second. But basically, a user, we call them a privileged user, that means a user that has a certain degree of privileges, needs to get into a target. Target is on the other side, which is a computer, but also a machine. And the company that in which this user operates, want to make sure that we know everything the user is doing. And basically, you start a session, that has this user monitored. You start recording what the user does, and then you supply to that user's passwords to be able to get into the targets, the systems. But of course, these passwords are not the real passwords; they're proxy passwords, because the idea is not to give them the passwords, but to enable them to access for a certain amount of time, for a certain amount of systems, these systems. In the session management is all of the wealth of control and recording system that you do. This is a functionality. There's a lot more details, but basically, when a user comes in through the Bastion, its session is detected. You're given privileges, and you're given the targets that you can reach, and you can start session recording. So every single session is recorded in all of its steps. Every single keyboard stroke that the user does is recorded. Now, in traditional privileged access management system for IT, this is pretty much the norm. And typically, the protocols with which they connect are RDP or SSH, which is the Microsoft and the Unix protocol, or the Unix and the Microsoft protocol, standard, let's say, IT environment. But if you are on a workstation that speaks Modbus or Profinet or some other Profibus, some other S7 from Siemens, you will not enter the Bastion through the traditional RDP SSH, but through your own specialized protocol. And the machine, on the other hand, will have their specialized protocol. So we have solved that problem. Because if you were to do it in the traditional systems, what you would have to do is you come in using your particular protocol, Modbus S7, etc. You go through the features and services of a privileged access management system, and then when you then exit it to connect to the machine, which is a traditional model of PAM, you need to have a jump server. A jump server has basically the dedicated PLC software and hardware to be able to connect to the PLC. You can imagine that in a system where you have 20, 30 different PLCs, you have to have 20, 30 different jump servers, which costs a lot of money. This becomes completely unsustainable as a way to come into and access the systems that are on the shop floor. What we have done instead is created a TCP tunnel that encapsulate the specific proprietary protocol, and it's an SSH tunnel that allows the traffic and the access to get to the PLC without having to have a jump server. So all of the functionality of the privileged access management system, the session recording, all of course, the session tracing, the ability to give password rotation and password with certain policies is available to the user, and you don't need anymore a jump server to get onto the other end. Of course, when you do that, the implementability of this solution becomes very high. And in fact, many companies that work with us on the IT side have now begun deploying technologies on the factory floor directly connecting to machines. Now, of course, if you ask me, well, give me some example. Well, here it is. Syngenta, a herbicide manufacturer, wanted to ensure that the employees in the plant and the service employees in the plant are able to come in also from the outside of the plant, not just from the inside, using the internet, passing through the office network. And of course, you will place the Bastion in a DMZ, in a demilitarized zone, before the machines, and all of a sudden you can directly connect a remote user to the machine without having to have a jump server. Now, of course, what else happens, if I can go to the previous chart, is that if you don't have the jump servers, your surface of attack becomes so much lower. And in the Bastion, when you start coming in from the outside using an access manager, you can come into the delimited zone, enter the Bastion with all the services of the Bastion. You can then connect through the raw TCP directly to the machine. So this has solved a dramatic number of such problems, and we have, of course, installed not just in Syngenta, but we have installed in large manufacturing companies like Renault, like Peugeot, just in terms of car companies, water utilities, electrical utilities, transportation companies. And using this specific protocol, we've been able to simplify greatly the access to machines. And this has been noted by Gartner Group, by Forrester, by Kuplinger-Cole as a unique feature of our privileged access management solution. So this clearly solves the problem of a service employee wanting to come in and perform some maintenance, and your own employees that may be coming in not from the plant and needing to connect to the PLC or the CNC or the SCADA system. The second solution that we have created is that for those PCs and systems that exist in manufacturing plants, and they've been around for 10, 15 years, maybe running Windows 10 or Windows XP or some old Unix system. And of course, you've kept them there because there hadn't been a need to change anything in the application. And until now, let's say, the PC was really not connected to the information system, not connected to the IP networks. Now, all of a sudden, as connectivity grows into plants, this system can be connected to the IT systems, and therefore they become a big vulnerability point. In fact, in some cases, even people go in with dongle and try to connect them via 4G and so forth. So a PC or a Unix box that has been there for 10, 15 years, it's a big vulnerability from a security point of view. So what do? Well, we basically through what's called Wallach's Best Safe, we eliminate the ability to use privileges as an individual level on that workstation. So that workstation becomes also the privileges used for that workstation are only the privileges of the applications that they are running. And there's, of course, a whitelisting of application. And basically, the privileges are given on a rule base, not on a person base, not on an individual identity base, but on a rule base. And we act on the principle that there is zero privileges or least privileges. So when you do that, what happens is if a user that has privileges try to come in and basically use maybe the crypto APIs of the Windows systems to start encrypting your disk or looking into the directory system, all of a sudden they cannot do this. Why? Because even if they have privileges, in a case of a best safe agent saying in the workstation, they are treated as zero privileges, which of course eliminates also the need for administrators. So basically it is about automating and rendering this workstation much more simple to manage. You can also have password changes and doing things that you would do on other systems, and you don't need administrators to do this. And of course, you get a centralized view of everything that is being done. Of course, if an application is trying to connect to an external application through APIs, you block it. And you can also, in the case of elevation, you can actually then ask for elevation of privilege for specific tasks for specific duration. So it doesn't completely block you to do certain things if you need to do it, but you need to have permission, and you need to ask, and you have to get somebody then to also give you that permission. So you're protected inside the cybersecurity processes, but you also have the freedom not to have people to manage this application. Now, we have just been, in terms of successes, we just won a major deal with a global UK car company where we actually are rolling out this endpoint system to thousands and thousands of workstation and PC systems inside the plant. And this is we're in the process of rolling it out, and the numbers are pretty staggering in terms of the number of workstations. So we're in the core of this development, and there's many others that are coming up in the next few weeks and months. Now, the third and last solution is what we call the Wolf for IoT, and probably is a little bit more complex to explain. Now, in factory floors, we talked about Industry 4.0. What the manufacturing managers and production managers and maintenance managers, and in fact COs and CXOs are doing is enable the transformation of the production processes and the change management of the entire value chain by making it much more flexible. For example, a recent reaction to COVID has meant that many manufacturers had to change the production process, had to maybe produce something else, right? Or produce in other places. And that ability to be flexible, to be scalable, and to be able to move processes across your entire enterprise is really at the core of Industry 4.0. Basically, what Industry 4.0 does is takes the data, the rich set of data that actually exists in these machines, data about maintenance, data about production levels, data about who has used the machine, data about temperature, humidity, and all other sensors, data that is embedded in the machine, and opens it up, frees it up to be read, to be integrated in other applications that are not the typical control applications. So, the SAPs, all the applications that exist within an IT environment. To do this, you need a gateway. A gateway is a lot of things, right? But gateway, as the word is, really enables the opening up of data and information that was locked into environments that were not connected. Because let's face it, the CNC, the PLCs were not connected. But as connectivity grows and the need to understand those machine specific data grows, the industry started producing gateways. Gateways is, of course, a piece of hardware. So it could be a box like this is a Cisco IoT box. It could be Advantech. It could be a Schneider box. It could be any sort of box that has some processor and fundamentally connectors that are RS422 and those standard layer 2 connectors, and at the same time can run a piece of software that is able to understand the data, to interpret the data coming from the machine, and is able to transmit it to the information systems. So far, pretty easy. However, to get into the information system, to transmit that data into the information system, you must have the credentials and the passwords of the information system. So to some extent, this IoT becomes a privileged user. And this privileged user is now trying to connect into the core of your system. Therefore, it becomes a vulnerability. Therefore, what we have done is, in order to solve that problem, is eliminated the passwords from a specific gateway, and we can do it with all gateways. Now, let me give you the example of exactly what we did. We selected a software gateway called Alliancia. Now, this software gateway is a very pretty much universal. It has about 5,000 different machine protocols for each machines, and you can easily add the multiple protocols without any programming. So the idea of a gateway is that you physically connect to the machine, and easily you can decide which data you want and send it out to the applications. So in this particular software module, you've got 5,000 different industry protocols and 40 and plus application connectors. They're all kind of REST API connectors to connect to various systems like energy monitoring, manufacturing execution system, batch systems, etc. So it brings our two worlds of OT and IT closer together and simplifies it without having to do any programming. But the catch is that the application passwords, as we said before, are inside the gateway. And therefore, a hacker that can easily take control of a gateway. I can even take the gateway home, because it's a physical piece of hardware. And in fact, when there's an end of life, I may in fact forget that I have put all my passwords there. Well, no longer, because now through the Bastion for IoT and Wolf for IoT solution, we have eliminated the passwords stored on the gateways and concentrated them on a particular version of Bastion, which basically can take all of the passwords of the applications that are sitting on gateways around the factory floor. So in a very simplistic model, you have different PLCs and CNCs that are connected to devices, to machines. You are able to read them. You are able to normalize the various different flows from one machine and another to in a simple data process that you then send to applications like MQTT, MySQL, and so forth. And in doing all this, your passwords are safe and no application can see them. Let me give you the visibility of what exactly we do. If you look at the Alliancia software front end, you can see that you can fundamentally decide which port you can connect the machine to. You can install the software under the installation icon, the software for that specific machine. So it may be a Siemens machine, it may be a ABB machine, it may be a Schneider machine. And all of those protocols of 5,000 machines are there. That's about 90% of all machines in the world. Once you connect to the machine, fundamentally the gateway is able to read the data, and in fact can also write. And that's a bigger issue, and we'll cross that in a second. But particularly on the reading side, you all of a sudden are able to then take this data and decide when you want to send it. Well, I want to send it when the temperature has reached 500 degrees, or I want to send it every 3 seconds, or I want to send it if the temperature is 1,000 degrees, and the operator has pushed this button. Whatever the logic is for the ability to send the data to the applications, you can program it directly. You don't have to program it, but you can profile it on the application. And then, of course, you connect with all sorts of applications like Azure IoT, Yammer, and many other SQL databases, MQTT, and so forth. Now, in order to connect without having to share the passwords, you can invoke the service called Wolf IoT. When you do that, all of a sudden, the credentials that you need to use to connect to the various applications are given to you automatically in a blind way. So you can connect. The passwords of the real applications are stored in the vaults and you can refresh them, and there's nobody that needs to see the application passwords from the gateway. This eliminates a major problem, a major vulnerability problem. And the way we've also simplified is, when you want to have the cybersecurity of a privileged access management system within your factory floor for your gateways, the logic of acquisition of buying gateways is very simple. It's number of connected devices. So do I have 10 PLCs, 5 PLC? What type of PLCs do I have? What type of CNCs do I have? Of course, the higher the price. And then the other KPI to price these gateways is typically how much data do I get? Do I get 1,000 pieces of data, 10,000, and so forth? So therefore, the people on the factory floor buying or investing in these gateways are used to this model. They don't buy privileged access management; they buy gateways. Now, what we have done is, because gateways are also then connected to applications, and each gateway is connected to different applications than another gateway, we have priced our value of the Wallix not as, okay, you buy a privileged access management system for your factory, but you pay for the amount of applications that your gateways connect to. So you could buy the gateway without security, or you can buy the gateway with security. And the delta, of course, is not high. So in a sense, we've made the model very understandable for the manufacturing manager. Now, in this way, we can then rapidly bring the cybersecurity element to people that really don't want to talk about cybersecurity, because the last thing a manufacturing manager really wants to deal with is the cybersecurity issues. On the other side, if you can take the issue away, and you say, look, by having that, your IT managers, your CISO will be less concerned. You are, basically enabling the ability to actually, roll this thing out. And, we have several customer case studies where we've used the gateway of Allianzia with our cybersecurity. An example is the factory of Bosch, where the project was to be able to have operational machine data to get access, of course, to application from trusted applications. And what they wanted to do is to be able to have predictive maintenance and proactive maintenance, to be able to intervene on the production machine before a problem occurs. So proactively schedule machine downtime. And in all this, the ROI basically is 1 day of downtime of the plant. So the ROI, you can if you do the calculation of 1 day of downtime of a plant, it gives you a very clear indication of what you can afford. And therefore, this makes the affordability of a project that much clearer. As we said before, we are very keen on being able to understand the regulatory environment within the production environment, and specifically in production environment, you have what's called ISA, which is the International Society of Automation, and IEC, the European counterpart, the 62443 regulation, and all of the things we have discussed today are really identifying the challenges that the ISA 62443 brings. So both identify and protecting system against basically stealing of data and stealing of secrets. So just to conclude, today we've discussed three areas. We've discussed the area of the security of privileged security for service employees, service technicians that need to have access to the systems, and for the manufacturing manager or the CISO to be able to know exactly which machines this third-party providers have gone to, how long they stayed, and to be able to record every single keystroke that they hit on their system. This is a unique capability, and we can do it without having to have any jump servers. That's number one. Number two, we can protect the endpoints, workstations on the factory floor by basically stopping their access to or the ability for a privileged user to get access to the kernels of the operating systems, and these are typically old operating systems, Windows 10, Windows XP. They've been around for 10 years, 15 years, and so they are vulnerable if you connect them to applications, and therefore you can lock them. You can lock them by only allowing the privileges of the applications that they're supposed to run. And of course, you can also stop any attempt to call invoke applications from outside that workstation. And the last thing that we've shown you is how we can take a gateway. Now we've given you an example on a specific software gateway, but of course we can do this with other software gateways. Basically, every software gateway needs one thing, which is the passwords of the application that it connects to. So if you can work with Wallix and with the Bastion for IoT, we can eliminate that risk, that vulnerability, by taking all the passwords out. Now, it's not about the hardware, because the hardware is the hardware. So you got the hardware has got already its defenses for perimeter defense. So it's got firewalls and other things. But in terms of logical defenses are where that workstation, where the gateway goes in terms of getting data or interacting with data. We've shown you how by using Wolf for IoT, you eliminate completely the use of passwords and you render your gateways more secure. Now we've given you the specific details of one gateway called Alliancia and how it operates. And we, of course, are also reselling that gateway in part of our solution. So you can also, let's say, procure from Wallix the entire solution, but we are also working with others. And if you have a specific gateway that you want the same process to be applied to, we, of course, can do that. So this concludes the presentation piece. I thank you for your time, and please reach out to us for anything more. Once again, Mark DeSimone, M. DeSimone, DeSimone, @ Wallix.com. Thank you very much. And this ends the session. Bye-bye.